Good morning and welcome back to kind of behind the scenes on Planet Doug, or as I called some of these videos not long ago, morning coffee with Doug, just because I fire up a camera in the morning and then I chat over my morning cup of coffee, which I have right here. And this is Planet Doug Studios, aka my hotel room in Melaka. And this is bringing a bit of a smile to my face because I just spent a couple of days, actually, while I was doing other things, but in my downtime, I was catching up with YouTube videos from travel vloggers that I sometimes follow, sometimes don't follow. And I put little notes about them up on my Patreon and the Planet Doug community post tab. So I wrote something about Nick K, this American who cycles, and he's currently in South Korea. He has a YouTube channel. And then I wrote about, Itchy Boots in particular. I kind of lost track of the Itchy Boots videos for a long time. But then I noticed on her channel, there was an unusual video. It was like, it had the usual clickbait style video title that she uses, something about, secrets, or Itchy Boots exposed, all her secrets revealed. And I'm like, whoa, what the heck is this? And I clicked on that video originally, and then it started playing, and then it was all about her and her daily life at the time back in the Netherlands. And yet all her videos before that were in Mongolia. And when I was scanning the video titles from Mongolia, the clickbait dramatic style of her video titles made me think, wow, something is really going wrong in Mongolia, because there were titles like, I totally misjudged this. I was like, whoa, you totally misjudged everything in Mongolia. It's more difficult than you expected. And she's back in the Netherlands, so did she have to give up? And then there was something about lonely. Mongolia is so much lonelier than I expected. I thought, whoa, she's really... And then there was something else about a problem, and she couldn't get fuel, and this and that. So I got the impression from all her video titles. Oh, she had a video title like, am I cursed in Mongolia? Why does everything keep going wrong? And I was like, wow, she's really having a hard time in Mongolia. Now here's this video in the Netherlands. So what happened? So once I figured that out, that the video was taking place in the Netherlands, I stopped watching it because I didn't want to spoil the surprise. So when I saw that video, I decided to go back and watch all of her videos from Mongolia just to get up to speed with what was happening, and then the story in the Netherlands would make more sense, and it would be a big surprise. Like, whoa, what is this big secret that she's exposing, Anyway, so I went back and I watched all of those videos. I think there were like 8 of them from Mongolia, and each one is 20 minutes long. So it doesn't take that long to go through them, and I hit them up at like 1.5 times speed, and I just sort of burned through all those videos, just picking up on the main points of her journey. And of course, that's when I discovered that all the video titles were essentially clickbait, kind of mild clickbait, but still clickbait, because she had like a thumbnail that said lonely, and then it's like, whoa, Mongolia is so lonely. And I thought she was feeling lonely and she was having trouble dealing with that. But that wasn't what the video was about at all. The video was about how empty Mongolia was. So she wasn't saying she felt lonely. She was saying that Mongolia has a lonely landscape because there's very few people, and she can ride all day and never see another human being. And that doesn't make her feel lonely. So she was describing the landscape. And then the video title where she said, I totally misjudged this. I thought this was referring to her whole trip. Like she decided to ride her motorcycle through Mongolia. I was like, whoa, I misjudged this. I had no idea how difficult it was going to be. But it turned out this, what didn't refer to Mongolia at all, it referred to one tiny patch of muddy road, because in that video, she got stuck. And I guess she hadn't been stuck for a very long time. I remember her journey through Africa, she got stuck in the mud a lot. So in almost every video, she was pushing her motorcycle out of the mud and really got stuck. But this was unusual for this part of the journey. And I guess she saw a little patch of like wet dirt on the road ahead, and she judged, oh, I can ride through that. And then she got stuck because the mud was deeper, and she got stuck, and then she had to get some wood and lean her motorcycle over and then pull the wheel out of the mud, put wood underneath and lift it back up. So she wasn't saying that she misjudged Mongolia, she misjudged this one little piece of the road, and then her motorcycle got stuck briefly in the mud, and then she had to get it out of the mud. So that was the whole misjudging thing. And there was another video title about the fuel, something, actually I have the video titles right here. Let me look it up. At least I think I have. Oh yeah, Mongolia's bad fuel problem. So I thought, whoa, she can't find gas. Like she's stuck in Mongolia because she can't get any gas anywhere. And I thought that would be related to Iran and the Strait of Hormuz and, you know, gas shortages worldwide. So I thought, whoa, she must be having a lot of trouble. But it turns out the wording, she's very good at this, is very tricky. It says Mongolia's bad fuel problem. It doesn't mean that the fuel problem is bad. It means that the fuel itself is bad. So it's actually Mongolia's bad fuel problem. Just meaning that the fuel, the gas that she finds, is low quality. So that's what that meant. So it really wasn't a big problem. It just meant that the fuel, she had to filter it, I guess. And because the quality level of the gasoline she could buy wasn't very good. But the video title made it sound like there was no fuel available. Now yeah, Mongolia is much harder than I thought. But again, in that video, nothing happened. There was nothing hard at all. And she wrote, "Am I cursed? No end to my streak of bad luck in Mongolia." And in that case, the big problem in the video was a flat tire. And I guess on a motorcycle, fixing a flat tire is not as easy as on a bicycle. I mean, if you know what you're doing and you've got the tools and you're not making mistakes like I did when I got a flat tire recently. Yeah, a flat tire on a bicycle is routine. Some cyclists deal with a flat tire every day if they have really thin tires and a heavy load on their bike. On motorcycle, yeah, it's harder to fix a flat tire, but it's still pretty routine. So the whole, you know, am I cursed? My streak of bad luck, and it turns out it was just a flat tire was the main problem. So it turned out that my idea that she had abandoned her trip because Mongolia was too tough, and that's why she went back to the Netherlands, that wasn't the case at all. So just this morning I watched her Netherlands video, and it was basically explaining what is going on. And the main issue, as I understood it, is that, well, that part of the world, Mongolia, has a very brief window of good weather that you can travel there on a motorcycle, like 3 months out of the year, and then winter comes, and then you can't really travel there. And I guess she reached the end of that good weather period, and then she had a whole bunch of stuff she needed to do in the Netherlands. So the whole video was talking about how she was getting all her teeth fixed, like dental work done, which is a pretty big deal, like pulling wisdom teeth and things like that, and braces and stuff like that. And she's writing a second book. So she basically left Mongolia to go back to the Netherlands just to take care of stuff like getting her teeth fixed and other personal stuff, and then yeah, writing a book and getting in shape. So while she was there, she has this like rocky sequence in the video, which is quite interesting, quite amusing, showing her working out, because she had the sense that because all she does is ride a motorcycle, her physical conditioning had fallen off. So she's trying to get back in shape with exercising and running and, you know, aerobic exercises and weightlifting, all that kind of stuff. But the reason I'm smiling about this and bringing it up right now is because of the difference between her behind the scenes video in the Netherlands and this, a behind the scenes video on Planet Doug. Because in her behind the scenes life in the Netherlands, wow, I mean, it's just such a wonderful, rich, full life, because most of it takes place at a beautiful house on the ocean somewhere, on the beach. And she doesn't explain exactly what's going on. She rarely ever gives full details. But my guess is that she talks about how she's taking care of 3 dogs because she's a licensed dog sitter, which I didn't know about Nora Lee. But I'm assuming that this house, she's staying there because she's being paid to house sit these 3 dogs while the owners of the house are gone on vacation or something. But she never does explain, like, is this her house, her family's house, or does this house belong to the people who own the dogs, which is what I assume. But anyway, she's living in this gorgeous, beautiful house on the ocean, has a gym, has a beautiful kitchen, and then her day, she goes through the day, how she, you know, wakes up in the morning, goes to the beach with the dogs, beautiful sunrise, and they walk and run along the beach with her dogs, and then comes back, takes a shower in this gorgeous outdoor, you know, rainfall shower, and then has an amazing breakfast that she cooks herself in that kitchen, gets all this great food out of the fridge, has this amazing breakfast, and then she sits down in various places around the house and writes for a few hours. She says she writes 2,000 words in the morning. That's her daily writing schedule. And then she writes 2,000 words, she's done. Then she has lunch, and then she goes to maybe she goes to the gym next, works out, does all of her workout, goes for a run, works out, has lunch, and then cooks a really nice lunch and a really nice dinner. Anyway, the whole thing is just magically wonderful in a beautiful setting, surrounded by friendly dogs. You know, I'm looking at her life going, wow, that is how you live. So that's, you know, that's Itchy Boots behind the scenes. Welcome to Planet Doug behind the scenes. I woke up actually a number of hours ago already. All I've done is drink instant coffee, no exercising, no good food, no food at all, sitting here in my low-budget hotel room with my curtains behind me, and yeah, no exercising, nothing like that at all. Anyway, the contrast between the Itchy Boots behind the scenes and Planet Doug behind the scenes kind of tickled my funny bone. So I'm back in Melaka, I'm back in Malaysia. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I spent the last month in Dumai in Sumatra, and that trip didn't really work out the way I had planned. This is always a problem for me, again, where things kind of spin out of control. So my original idea was to, of course, my visa for Malaysia was expiring, and the easiest thing for me to do here in Melaka was to hop on the ferry across to Sumatra. I was just going to spend a few days there, a week at most, and then hop on the ferry to come back, reset my 90-day social visit pass for Malaysia, and continue my bicycle ride. But then when I got there, after a week, I wasn't ready to leave yet, because for me, a week went by like that. I barely got my phone up and running. Like, you know, I'm very slow moving, again, compared to Nora Lee on Itchy Boots. Also because of the video editing, that's also factoring into what's happening right now. Like, I landed in Dumai, and I still had videos, content from Malaysia, from my time here in Melaka, that I hadn't managed to edit and upload and post yet. So days go by where all I'm doing is editing and uploading the videos that I had backlogged from Melaka. I'm usually not, I'm not far behind, which is another big difference with Nora Lee. As she explained in her behind the scenes video, she's months behind. So she doesn't even try to edit the videos in Mongolia, about Mongolia, while she's in Mongolia. She doesn't even try to do that because she knows it's going to be so hard and she needs all her time for riding the motorcycle. So I assume what she did in Mongolia was just ride her motorcycle day after day after day after day, stockpiling all the video, just stockpiling it, knowing that she's going to fly back to the Netherlands at the end of it. And then while she's in the Netherlands, months and months and months go by, and then she's slowly creating the videos because she has that rigorous schedule where she usually posts 2 videos a day, two videos a week, on the exact same day at the exact same minute and hour. And the only way she can be that organized is if she, makes the videos months and months later. So, which it's inevitable for a professional YouTuber, traveler, vlogger. It's just the way it has to be. But it does always, I never quite like it, because she'll be in Mongolia, or she'll, not just her, but other very famous travel vloggers will post a video where, oh, I just crossed from Thailand into Malaysia on my motorcycle, and there'll be hundreds of comments from Malaysians welcoming them to Malaysia and saying, oh, you got to go here. Oh, when you come to this city, you got to do this, and giving them all kinds of advice and information, helpful tips. I would get on there and say, oh, you got to get a touch and go e-wallet. It's so amazing. But of course, that vlogger, they left Malaysia 6 months ago. They're nowhere near this country anymore. So all these comments giving them advice and helpful information, it's all just a waste of time, because that person, they left Malaysia months and months and months ago because they're so far behind in their schedule. But anyway, I landed in Dumai, and I had like 2 videos. I was like 2 videos from Melaka that I hadn't managed to edit and post yet. But it takes me such a long time to edit one of my videos, that like 3 or 4 days will go by, nonstop work on those videos. And then of course I have to go to Telkomsel, get my smartphone up and running, get the customs block removed. So before I knew it, I barely arrived and a week was gone. And then I thought, well, let's stay another week, because I'd really started enjoying the lower prices in Sumatra. I mean, everything there is so much cheaper than Malaysia, which is a big attraction for me. The hotel is so much cheaper, food and drinks, and it's just relaxing. It's just really nice to suddenly, I don't have to worry so much about money all the time, because it's such a much more inexpensive place. So I thought I might as well take advantage of that, stay for another week. And then I got sick. That sickness lasted more than a week, and then there was like a week of recovery. So by the time I was done, I'd spent an entire month just in Dumai, which from the starting point, like if I decided in advance, I'm going to go to Sumatra for a month, you wouldn't commit. Normally, you wouldn't commit to staying in Dumai for 1 month. Even I didn't commit to that. I was only going to go there for a few days, a week at the most. Had I known I was going to be there for a month, well, then I probably would have set my sights on going back up to Bukit Tinggi, because that whole area still had so many attractions, so many beautiful areas I hadn't visited. And I enjoy a city like Dumai. To be honest, that's like Planet Doug paradise for me, because in the end, what I enjoy most is just being in a normal city among ordinary people living their ordinary lives. That's mainly what I'm interested in. If you go up to Bukit Tinggi, there's gorgeous physical features like volcanic lakes that are set up for tourism. And then you can rent a scooter, which I did on my first visit there. And then you ride your scooter down to these amazing volcanic lakes and ravines and, really beautiful places. And that's all worthwhile doing. And I rode my scooter down to Padang, rode up and down the gorgeous coastline there. But in the end, what really interests me would be a city like Dumai, just an ordinary Indonesian city. You go out walking around the streets and you just learn about regular day-to-day life in Indonesia for regular people. I enjoy that. And it's a lot cheaper to stay in one place. As soon as you start moving, your costs double right away, and they'll even triple. It just happens. As soon as you start moving, the money just flows out of your wallet. And if you stay in one place, your living expenses just drop dramatically. Anyway, I'm just explaining how I ended up in Dumai for a full month before I came back here. And these behind the scenes videos, by the way, I did some experimenting with them. I should probably stop experimenting so much on Planet Doug, but I can't help it because I have a behind the scenes channel, which I created specifically for videos like this. And that's where this video is. I'm going to be posting this one to behind the scenes. But I did experiment for a while with putting these behind the scenes videos on the main Planet Doug channel. And when I did research into this, a lot of informed sources said, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. It's not going to affect the YouTube algorithm, because other people will say, no, that's the worst thing you can do. Your content has to be the same. You have to keep posting the same type of video so that the algorithm gets to know who you are, who to send your videos out to. And if you start posting, oh, today I'm cycling. Oh, today I'm walking through the market. Oh, today I'm talking about the history of alcohol. Oh, today I'm talking about, and now this is an hour and a half long behind the scenes video. YouTube doesn't know what to do with you anymore and just sort of gives up on you and never promotes your channel. So these two competing arguments. And I don't know who's telling the truth, to be honest. The people who argue that it's fine to post mixed content, they say that the YouTube algorithm focuses on each individual video. They're very clear about that. If you post a video and nobody clicks on it, and if people who do click on it watch for 30 seconds and then click away, YouTube just dumps that video. It's just, okay, everyone hates this video. Why should we promote it? And your video will just die. So they say it judges every video specifically individually. It doesn't relate the video to the other videos on your channel. It only judges each video on its merits. And if a lot of people click on it and keep watching it, it will promote it. If people click on it and stop, they won't promote it. But anyway, setting that argument aside, when I posted behind the scenes videos to Planet Doug, mixing it in with, say, my cycling in Malaysia videos, it just didn't feel right to me. I don't like that clutter. I tend to be a relatively organized person, especially with physical stuff. I like things to be organized. I like things to be consistent. And it just bugged me to have this mixture of content on my Planet Doug YouTube channel. So anyway, I'm giving up on that experiment, and I'm reinvigorating my behind the scenes channel. And I like having the behind the scenes channel because it almost is like giving me a license to be as unentertaining as possible. Like if I post a 3-hour video on Planet Doug where all I'm doing is talking like this, I feel kind of embarrassed about posting that video there because I know it's not a popular format. It's more like a podcast than a video. But if I have behind the scenes channel, it's like a license for me to do whatever I want there. That's my playground as a video creator. I can do anything I want there, post anything I want. It can be 3 hours long, it can be 10 hours long, and nobody can give me a hard time about it. And I don't have to feel embarrassed about it or guilty about it, right? So anyway, hard distinction going forward, going back to Planet Doug. If I'm traveling, seeing new things, that's Planet Doug. Behind the scenes, Planet Doug Studios, that goes on the behind the scenes channel. So that's what's happening with this video. First story on Planet Doug, the first Planet Doug behind the scenes story, has to be about my trip from Sumatra, from Dumai, Sumatra. I mixed up Dumai and Sumatra there. I called it Sumai. And because that video about my ferry trip from Dumai to Melaka, it just went live last night. I posted it and then did the thumbnail. I just remembered I posted it with a thumbnail and title test. So I posted the video, but I used 3 different thumbnails and 3 different video titles just to see which one performs better. And I haven't checked the results yet, so I don't know which one performed better. I'll probably post that to Patreon when I see the results. I always find that kind of thing interesting. But that is the latest big event on Planet Doug. And I don't think I have a whole lot to say about that trip because I documented it pretty thoroughly in the video. Funny thing is, at the beginning of the video, I think I even said, I've done this ferry trip so many times, so I'm not going to document everything. It's going to be a really short video, finally. But of course, by the time I was finished at the end of the day, I'd pretty much recorded everything as usual, and I think the final video was at least an hour long, maybe even an hour and 20 minutes long. And that surprised even me because I felt like I had hardly recorded anything at all. I was on the ferry, I didn't break out my 360 camera to record fancy 360 shots. I feel like I did not record very much. In fact, when I rode my bicycle from my hotel to the ferry, I didn't even have my patented Planet Doug broomstick mount. So I didn't even have a GoPro mounted on the bicycle. All I had was one GoPro on a neck mount filming ahead of me a little bit. I just babbled a little bit here and there. So my sense was I was going to have like 20 minutes of video. Yes! I'm going to be Itchy Boots. Yes, 20 minutes and that's it. But of course, Planet Doug, come on. It ended up being over an hour long anyway, which was kind of amusing. I just don't know how to shoot anything short. And even thinking back, even if I deliberately, firmly committed to a 20-minute video for that ferry ride, I don't know how I could do it. Like, I couldn't. I just can't. What do you do? I don't even know how I would record anything. Yeah, anyway, it's a bit of a mystery to me how you would do it. But anyway, most of it is in the video, but there's a few things perhaps that aren't that clear in the video, other things that I remember thinking or feeling that I didn't talk about at the time. And one of them was this sense of loss when I was leaving the hotel, and a sense of a difference between how I feel and how perhaps the people at the hotel feel. Because the last hotel that I stayed at, the Ohana, I was there in that hotel for 2 weeks straight, and in that time it began to feel like my home, and I saw the same people at the front desk all the time. They sold drinks and snacks down there, and I would go through the lobby a lot, and I'd stop and I'd chat with them, and I'd get a cold drink, and I got to know everybody, and they all felt like, friends of mine. So there I am packing up and leaving, and to me emotionally it's a big deal. Like, I'm saying goodbye. That was even what I put in the one of the video thumbnails, because that was my feeling, a sense of saying goodbye to this place that I'm so fond of, and I feel like the people that work there and we've gotten to know each other. So you're leaving this place and you're almost emotionally expecting a heartfelt goodbye. Like if you were leaving from your hometown to go around the world on a trip, all of your family and friends are there, crying at the train station, goodbye, goodbye. You almost want that feeling when you're leaving this hotel. So I'm going down to the lobby, and to me it's a big moment. And, I want to kind of engage with the guy at the front desk. Yeah, I'm checking out today and I'm leaving. And the guy's like, yeah, whatever. You know, he doesn't care. I'm just one of hundreds and hundreds of guests that pass through the hotel every month. He had been perfectly friendly the entire time that I was there. Indonesians are extremely warm and outgoing and friendly people. But of course, me leaving, like checking out of his hotel, for me on the emotional scale, it's up here. For him, it's just, it happens every single day. So I did have that feeling of, oh, I'm you know, getting on my bike and I'm cycling away from the hotel. I'm like, you know, nobody said goodbye. You know, it was like, that was a kind of a funny moment, I thought. And yeah, as I talked about in the video, I left a little bit later than I'd planned. I kind of got caught in between these two ideas. On Planet Doug, the normal pattern is go really early. Like even if I'm flying out of KLIA in Kuala Lumpur, I don't mind getting to the airport 4 hours before my flight. I like that because it removes all time pressure, all stress, and then I can just hang out at the airport, which is fine to me. Find myself a little coffee shop, a chair somewhere, and just do, I mean, I can sit in my hotel room for 2 hours and then leave with just enough time. But if I'm going to hang out in my hotel room for 2 hours, why not take those 2 hours and hang out at the airport somewhere new? So yeah, the Planet Doug system is to go very, very early. But even when I booked the ticket, when I paid for it in Dumai at the Indomal Fast Ferry office, they even said to me, the ferry leaves at 9, so you have to be at the dock by 8. Like they were telling me to get there 1 hour before departure. That was their official information. I was like, whoa. Normally, for an international anything, even a ferry, they're going to tell you get there 2 hours early. And then I would end up getting there 3 hours early. And then, of course, I do end up waiting for 2.5 hours before they even let you start the boarding process. And these ferry terminals are not very comfortable. They're not like airports. So in the back of my mind, I did have this feeling like, I don't think you need to get there as early as you normally do. So I slowed down my packing in the morning. I didn't rush. And by the time I left the hotel on my bicycle, it was later than I had planned and later than I normally do. And then, yeah, Dumai was awake. Lots and lots of traffic, and it was bustling. And then when I got down to the ferry terminal, yeah, I was there so early. I could have arrived another hour, hour and a half later, and I still would have gotten onto the ferry just fine. Like, even when you go to get into the terminal building, there's no option to go through immigration until boarding, right? They just hold you in a departure area, and you just sit there, and it's kind of uncomfortable. It's not the most comfortable place, and you haven't even gone through immigration yet. So it's only when they say, you know, boarding time was probably, I think it was 8:30 was boarding time, and that's when you get up and join the line to immigration. So yeah, so you don't even have to be there until 8:30. Just show up, and then you start boarding, because you can't even go through immigration early anyway. So that's how that all went. And then in the video, I talked a lot about how at the Indomal Fast Ferry ticketing office, I really wanted to buy a VIP ticket because they're really, really cheap. Economy class and VIP, there's a very, very tiny difference in price, and you get a lot of value for that extra money. Much more comfortable seats, much more comfortable area, better bathrooms. Everything about it is just nicer. So it's worth it. And they told me in the ticketing office, no, this boat for that day, it's kind of a lower class boat. There is no upper deck. There is no VIP seating. So I was unable to buy that ticket. And then, of course, I showed up. And even as I was walking out on the dock, I was already talking about how this boat won't have an upper deck. And I'm filming with my GoPro because I had another boat there, a much bigger, newer, much fancier boat. And I was aiming my GoPro at the other boat saying, oh, That's the boat I wanted to go on. Look, it has a big upper deck and da da da. And here's my boat. It has no upper deck. And then I went over to my, oh no, wait a minute. It does have an upper deck. You know, it was like when I came out onto the dock, it was like, well, my boat does have an upper deck. What the heck is going on there? So I was confused right out of the gate. You know, I get onto the boat and I had an assigned seat, which is brand new. I've never had an assigned seat number before. And the guy pointed to my seat when I got on. He looked at my ticket, 146, and he said, oh, there's 146. And luckily, my seat was on the aisle, so I was happy about that. I wasn't jammed in the middle of a whole bunch of people. And I said, okay, at least it's an aisle seat. And then I sat down, and it's got this kind of like this armrest, and the armrest was broken. It was like flopping in and out. I was like, oh, whoa, okay. And then I wanted to kind of lean my head back against the headrest, but I couldn't because the hinge on the seat was also broken, and the seat was on an angle, so I was kind of forced to sit on it uncomfortably. It was like, oh boy. And it was really, really noisy. But the worst thing about it was exhaust fumes from the engine was coming into that area, and it was really affecting my throat. Yeah, I was like, whew, I'm breathing in exhaust all the time. So it really was an uncomfortable area to sit. It was interesting because you got to see all the activity down on the lower deck. But then at one point, I didn't get this on video. I was sitting there assessing where I was, and then a group of about 7 or 8 younger men just came walking up the aisle towards me, down the aisle. I was at the very back of the boat, and then they walked past me, and they never came back. You know, right after they walked past me, I kind of gave it a beat, and then I turned to look. Oh, they were gone. Like, it's like, where did they go? They just disappeared. And up until that point, I hadn't even seen the stairs. Like normally you go right into the main entrance on the boat, and then here's the lower deck, and right here are the stairs to go to the upper deck. But there were no stairs to go to the upper deck. So I started thinking, you know what? Those 8 young men, I think they know something that I don't know, and they found the stairs and they went up to the upper deck. And at some point, I went outside on the lower deck just to look at the ocean and take some video of the boat and things like that for the video. And then while I was there, that's where the stairs were to go up to the upper deck. They were on the outside of the boat. And then so I thought, oh, let's go take a look up there. I go up there and boom, VIP seating in the upper deck. The doors were closed, like sealed, so it was air conditioned. They were playing movies up there. Like most of it was empty, all empty seats except for the few people who had come up. And I thought, well, why can't I come up here? So I went straight back down to economy, grabbed my knapsack, and then I just walked back up to the VIP upper deck, grabbed a window seat, and I sat there for the rest of the trip. And then as I talked about in the video, if they came up to me and says, oh, sir, you know, you don't have a VIP ticket, I would say, well, can I just pay now? Like, can I upgrade? You know, here's some money, and I'm willing to pay to sit up here. It's what I wanted to do from the beginning, but they wouldn't sell me a VIP ticket. But no, I don't think anybody had a VIP ticket. I think none of those seats had been sold to anybody. All those 8 guys that came up, they all came from economy as well, just like me. They just knew that they could buy a ticket for economy and then just whoop, go upstairs and sit in a VIP upper deck. So that's what I did. And the trip itself was 2.5 hours, went by like that. And then I was in Melaka, very nice ferry terminal here in Melaka. Night and day difference compared to Port Dickson. The ferry terminal in Port Dickson is way too small for the number of people that it processes for these ferries. And it's just not, it doesn't have a good layout and organizational space to do anything. So it's a much more crowded, much more stressful place to both board the ferry and get off the ferry. But Melaka, the ferry terminal here, is wonderful by comparison. So very, very easy going to board the ferry. And then when I went back and I came off the ferry on my return trip, Yeah, really, really easy. The one funny thing, and you can see that in the video, is that as soon as you come off the boat, all of your luggage is on the dock waiting for you. So you have to get your own luggage as soon as you get off the boat, and then you're carrying all your luggage while you go through immigration. So people who have like big heavy suitcases, they're actually, rolling their luggage along in the lineup to go to immigration, up to the immigration officer. And I've got a bicycle. So I'm like, I don't think they're gonna want me rolling my bicycle into the lineup. Most official government buildings and places, they don't like bicycles at all. They really think they're awful things. So what I did, I rolled my bike into the building. I saw all these security guards everywhere, and I'm kind of making eye contact with them and kind of, indicating, is it okay, my bike? Or, don't shoot me. Can I bring my bicycle in? And they was, yeah. I assumed I would have to park it somewhere out of the way, go through immigration, and then say to the officer, I have to circle back and get my bike. Is that okay? That's what I was going to do. That's what I did in Indonesia when we arrived in Dumai. But then when I tried to do that, they came up to me and says, no, you can't do that. You have to bring your bicycle into the lineup. So I'm inching forward in the lineup and then rolling my bicycle forward. And then when it was my turn to go up to the immigration officer, felt very, very strange. I rolled my bike up there and I flipped down my 2 kickstands and put my bike there, and okay, I guess this is how it works. And then, he stamped my passport and I went through immigration and stuff like that. Yeah, very easy trip. Didn't have any real problems. Couple of little quirks along the way that you saw in the video perhaps. But then once I left from the dock, I just rode to this hotel, and I had left behind my trailer. I have a trailer for my bicycle, and I put all my camping gear and heavy gear, everything big and bulky goes in the trailer, and I left it behind here in the hotel lobby. And I was happy to see it was still there. So I came in the door. First thing I did was like, oh, it's still there. Because I told them I was going to be gone for a week, and I ended up being gone for a month. And but it's a pretty casual place, this hotel, the Makota Vibe Inn. I really like it here. Very casual, very easygoing. All the staff here are Indonesian, and I think that's the key. The Indonesians are just so, even here, they're far from home, but everybody at the front desk, they're from Indonesia. And when I walk in, the guy greeted me. He looks up, hey, boss, hey, boss, welcome back. And it's like, yes. I was so happy to get that greeting. He remembered me. He knew exactly who I was. And that always feels really good. And he knew that was my luggage. And he didn't even know I had been gone for so long. I actually started apologizing, which is my default mode. Canada, I'm sorry. We apologize for everything all the time. So I just assumed they were annoyed with me because I'd been gone longer than I said I would be gone, and I had my luggage sitting here. But it turned out they didn't even know. The guy says, like, what do you mean? Says, well, I was gone for a month. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. He had no idea there was any problem at all with me being long. They didn't remember how long I said I would be gone. All they knew was, this guest wanted to leave some bags here. So put them there and fine. I mean, that's one of the advantages of a low budget hotel. There was actually a comment. I was replying to YouTube comments this morning. That's one thing I've been doing here in Melaka since I got back, kind of getting caught up on replying to comments and things. I went way back in time because I didn't have time when I was in Malaysia, and I got behind in interacting with people. So I've been replying to comments a lot, and I was replying to comments this morning, and then somebody had asked me a question about, how can I leave a bicycle for 1 month in Malaysia? Like, where can I do that? And then my reply was, of course, well, there's no official place where you do that. I've done this a number of times in my lifetime in many different countries. And it's always a case-by-case business, case-by-case situation. If I'm in a hotel, a low-budget hotel, and there's a wonderful place to park your bicycle that's out of the way and safe and all that kind of stuff. And if you have to leave for a couple of weeks on a visa run or something, yeah, you can just ask the people at that hotel, like, do you mind? Like, you tell them, I've got to go to Malaysia for a month or whatever, and can I just leave my bike here? And then I'll come back. And they're like, oh yeah, sure, fine, fine, fine. Or if a longer term storage, I can speak to a friend and say, can I, do you mind, can we throw this bike in your house or backyard or wherever? You just sort of have to make individual personal arrangements. But then what I did say in my written comment, that actually more expensive hotels probably won't do this for you. Because as soon as you jump up to like a mid-range or expensive hotel, suddenly they're very formal about it. Like if you leave something in storage with them, they have to treat it as a legal liability because they're more official. And then well, okay, if we are taking possession of your belongings, we have to fill out some paperwork. And then you have to sign a disclaimer that, we are not responsible for this, that, and the other. You get certain guarantees from them in exchange for signing the paperwork, and you usually have to pay at a real hotel. They're not going to just take your bike and leave it there, right? But at a low-budget hotel like this one, my luggage was just sitting out there in the lobby. Anybody could have taken it. Like, the thing is, they were willing to let me leave my bag in the lobby, but they're not responsible for it. It's okay, you can leave it here, but we're not going to keep an eye on it. We're not going to keep it secure. If somebody steals it, that's on you. If you're okay with that informality, yeah, you can do stuff like that at low budget hotels. Like when I went to Sumatra, I repacked everything and I made sure that everything of extreme value came with me, like all my ID and everything like that I cannot afford to lose. I brought everything with me. And of course, many items of financial value were still in the bags that I left here at the hotel. I would have been sad to lose them if somebody stole it all, but it was just a financial loss. It wouldn't be like losing your passport or something like that, if you know what I mean. Or, personal papers and stuff like that. Anyway, yeah, so on my first night here, I didn't even bother to bring up my luggage. It was kind of interesting because I went to Sumatra with just a minimum amount of gear, but it was really all I needed to get by with. And I'd gotten used to having that small amount of gear. So I think for the first 2 nights that I was here, I didn't even get my luggage. I just left it down there because I didn't actually need it right away. And eventually, of course, I went down and grabbed it and brought my trailer up here. So all around me is all my Planet Doug stuff once again. Some technology stories. I'm shooting this video with my Olympus, by the way. When I went to Sumatra, I didn't bring the Olympus with me, so I only had my GoPro cameras. But now that I have my trailer, I left behind, this camera gear in the trailer. So that's what I mean, that if someone had stolen my bags, they would have stolen my expensive camera gear, and that would have been bad. But of course I can live without it. But now I've been reunited with the Olympus, so I'm filming it with this. It's a lot easier to film with the Olympus because I can put it on a tripod on the floor at the end of the bed, and then I can use my medium telephoto to zoom in. So the camera is actually very, very far away from me. I can't reach it, but at least I don't have to worry about moving it. If I'm using my GoPro, the GoPro has to sit right here, like right in front of me, and then sit on the mattress. And then every time I move, the camera is moving, bouncing, shaking. And then I kind of have to put my legs around the tripod, and then it gets very uncomfortable after a while. So having my Olympus for this is nice. Yeah, so I'm shooting with my Olympus. The other big technology story involves, a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about right now, I've actually posted little stories about it to Patreon and then YouTube posts. So I'm repeating myself to an extent here. My new sandals, very excited about that because my old Bata power sandals had worn out and they were becoming a big problem because all the walking I did in Dumai, a weird thing happens with these sandals. The longer you walk on them, the rubber compresses and then it stretches. So even though these fit my feet perfectly in terms of length, over time, the toes will just stretch and stretch and stretch. So now it gets really quite dangerous because you're walking and the tip of the sandal will hook on something and then you can trip and fall. And of course, my old sandals, the whole sole was completely worn out. It was like walking on cement. They were so hard. And on the back, it had worn all the way through and all the straps had ripped off. So anyway, sandals needed to be replaced. And I went out looking here in Melaka. I went shopping and I found all kinds of sandals, which is kind of rare for me. I normally have trouble finding sandals, but I went to the Moto Parade Mall, huge fancy mall right beside my hotel basically, and there's all kinds of shoe stores there, and they just happened to be stocking all kinds of sandals, but most of them were about 400 or 500 ringgit, kind of expensive Sketcher, like brand name kind of sandals. And then they also had a Bata store, and I was thinking about getting nicer sandals, thinking maybe more expensive ones will last longer, but then the difference between 400 ringgit and 100 ringgit, that's a big difference, you know. So for the price of one pair of 400 ringgit Skechers, I can buy 4 pairs of these. So those Skechers would have to last a really long time to make up the value difference. Anyway, when I went into Bata and I saw that they had these exact same sandals that I like, I know they fit, I know they're comfortable, I just bought them. So I'm a very good customer for Bata. The one funny thing, I talked about that in my YouTube post, is the sizing, because I bought these sandals based on just trying them on. They had them out on display and they looked to be the right size, so I put them on my feet. Oh, perfect fit. All right, I'll buy these, and I go out the door and I get them back to my room and it says they're size 12, like US sizes, size 12. I was like, what the heck? And then I look on the sandals themselves. Did I? I'm wondering, do they have labels here? Yeah, there's a label here. Yeah, it says the same thing. It's not just the box. It says US 12. And there's no way these are 12s because I wear a size 10 in US sizes, 9.5 to 10. I'm basically a size 10 guy. Size 12 would be way too big for me. So that's this. I just noticed that the sizes are inaccurate. If you buy something based on the box, if I told the woman, oh, I need a size 10 US size, and I just took them home without trying them on, they'd be way too small because the US size labeling, it's not accurate at all. These ones made in Vietnam, it says. And yeah, here are my old sandals, and yeah, here it's like it's worn all the way through. The straps have torn off, and they're just, yeah, it was time to replace them. There's nothing left of the sole. But what I tend to do with most things in my life, actually, is when I'm getting rid of something like sandals or a knapsack, any kind of a bag or a jacket that's worn out, quite often the pockets and the straps are still in good condition, and I'll cut them off. So you might notice these sandals, I cut off all the straps because the sandals actually have some really nice Velcro. So I've got I cut these off the sandals, and they're really handy, you know, Velcro straps. And having these in your bag, in your toolkit, I end up having a million uses for these things. So now I've got this big, you know, and you can kind of put them together and make them longer or shorter, you know. Just kind of handy to have all these Velcro straps. So I just have a pair of scissors and I cut all the straps off of these, and I'll put these into my, I have a special bag just for straps and things like that. And then over time, if I find I'm not using them at all, you know, I'll get rid of them, but I'll carry them around with me for a while and then see, you know, how often I have a use for them. Yeah, pretty handy. So I got a whole bunch of Velcro straps now, thanks to my old Bata Sandals. Another technology problem that I wrote about on Patreon and on YouTube is, of course, ongoing GoPro issues. And I talked about the GoPro Media Mod and how it broke. And there it is there. So there's the door. As you can see, it no longer locks into position. So yeah, there's a locking mechanism at the bottom, and they're just not strong enough. Of course, I do a lot of online forum searches about stuff like this, and there's actually a lot of commentary I found online from other people who had the same problem. Like if you go to Reddit and places like that, you'll see comments from people saying, oh, you know, that little locking mechanism on my Media Mod, it broke off. How can I fix it? And everybody chimes in, yeah, it happened to me too. Happened to me too. Yeah, me too. And how do we fix it? So there's a whole community of us out there who are constantly dealing with broken Media Mods. But this is at least the second one that I've had, might even be the third. And they cost like $80 US, these things, $80, $90, I think. And so they're not cheap. So the very first one that broke, what I ended up doing was taking this, there's a piece of metal on the inside that's not part of the plastic hook, but there's a metal part that's held in place by screws. And what I did with my old Media Mod is I undid those screws, took that piece of metal, and then I super glue it to the outside and then bend the bottom up. And then I bend the bottom up because that creates a hook. And then what I do is very simply close it, and I take a rubber band and I put the rubber band around those hooks, and then I wrap the rubber band around the Media Mod. So that's how I hold the door closed, with a rubber band. And it works fine, but as I've talked about at length, every time you need to change the battery in your GoPro or change the memory card or remove the memory card to copy the video files, you have to dismantle the entire mounting apparatus. And when you're out there like cycling in the heat, you know, you're in Indonesia and Sumatra, the sun is beating down, you're at the side of the road, traffic is roaring past, and now you're trying to change the battery in your GoPro. Just dismantling the Media Mod by itself is a real pain. It's really, especially, I mean, it's hard to do here in Planet Doug Studio. Doing it at the side of the road on your bicycle is even harder. And now, on top of what's already a difficult process, now I have to remove my rubber band in order to do this. And then you're at the side of the road, you know, you're pulling a rubber band around, and if you let go, you know, bing, the thing goes zings through the air. It's like, where did it go? And you may not have other rubber bands with you, and now you're looking, where did that rubber... It's really silly to take, you know, this rig, which is probably $1,000 by the time you add up the GoPro, the Media Mod, the microphone, the grip, everything. You know, it's like $1,000 piece of gear, and I'm holding it together with a rubber band that came with my bakso or my noodles, you know, the home delivery. These you know, you end up with a whole collection of these rubber bands, because all your food is in plastic bags and things, and you end up having a bunch of these in your pocket. And I'm taking my bakso elastic band and using that to hold together like $1,000 camera rig. It's pretty funny. But anyway, it still works. All I have to do is hold it closed with a rubber band, and it works just as well. Yeah, as I talked about at length in a previous video, a kind of a behind-the-scenes ramble, GoPro has come out with a new camera, the Mission 1, and with that new camera, they've released a newly designed media mod, and they've at least gotten rid of one problem. The new media mod has its own mounting fingers, its own mounting point on the bottom, so you don't have to dismantle the whole mounting apparatus anymore. So, but I don't think they're going to modify the old media mod, because that new media mod, it doesn't fit the Hero cameras. It only fits the Mission cameras. But anyway, one more GoPro media mod broken. Ding. AI. I have a few thoughts about AI, and I kind of pulled all my thoughts together into one AI-based topic for behind the scenes. The first thing, Grok was down for a long time. I think it's mainly still down for me. Every time, like the one thing I used Grok for was taking YouTube captions. Like when you make a YouTube video, of course, YouTube has a computer system that creates automated captions that are displayed on the screen. And they're horrible. They're not good at all. They're filled with mistakes. Everything is wrong. There's no punctuation. They're just really, really dumb. So what I do is I go and I copy and paste the YouTube captions, all of them, the whole thing as a file, and I copy and paste it into an AI, and I ask the AI, can you just clean it up? Just do whatever you can, fix the spelling, add punctuations, insert paragraph structure, basically correct it as best you can. And it turned out that Grok did a really nice job with that, because Grok didn't have a limit to how much text you could insert. If you try to do it with ChatGPT, it won't accept it because it's just too much text. And then with Grok, though, it doesn't matter. I could put in 20 pages of text, like 15,000 words, and it just says, okay, fine. And it just goes, does the whole thing very, very quickly. So I started using Grok as my main tool. And then weeks ago, Grok wouldn't respond. It just said, heavy load on our server, Grok is not available. And that happened day after day after day. And eventually I had to go looking for another way, because Grok was just unavailable all the time. And I haven't checked recently, but yeah, this went on for weeks where Grok was completely down, which I thought was kind of interesting. Heavy load on Grok, and it just failed. Yeah, kind of interesting. And something else going on with the AI, I guess this has been going on since 2025. Like a year ago this started, and I did a little bit of research into this, but YouTube is cracking down on AI slop, AI generated derivative video slop. And what I understand, this is all based on a new ruling in Europe. The EU is really different from North America. They have so many rules there, strict rules controlling technology that don't exist in the United States or Canada. And I guess the EU is putting in place a brand new rule of controlling AI content. And these rules, these laws in the EU, according to what I read, come with really big fines. The last article I read said that if YouTube and Google violate these rules, they can be fined up to like 3% of their global operating budget, or some insane number like that. I don't know if it was 3%, maybe it was 0.3%, but whatever the number was, when you do the math, it was a massive fine, like a huge amount of money. So YouTube is taking this very, very seriously, and right over the past year, they have been testing. Again, this is all according to what I read casually. I don't know, I'm not telling you this is really what's going on, just sort of a casual reading of online articles, that YouTube, to get ahead of this law, they wanted to make sure that their systems are working, and they are testing these new AI systems on YouTube to detect AI and then demonetize those channels. So the irony there is pretty strong, that in their fight against AI generated content, YouTube is so massive now, they have no choice. They have to use AI to fight AI. And from YouTube's point of view, they can accept a certain number of false positives. So I was listening to some YouTube videos about this as well, and people were saying that, well, the YouTube AI program is not perfect, and it casts a really wide net. So they tell the AI, go out there, find YouTube channels that are using AI badly and creating AI slop, and demonetize them. Just get out there and just go crazy. So this AI program might demonetize, say, 500,000 YouTube channels. It's like all of these 500,000 demonetized, and could be removed from YouTube. But out of those 500,000, maybe 30,000 are false positives, right? Where the AI made a mistake, or it could be like out of 500,000, 100,000 were a mistake. And from AI's point of view, that is, or from YouTube's point of view, that's acceptable, because the fine, they're at risk of paying such a huge fine, they're willing to take like 100,000 YouTube channels and demonetize them falsely, and cause a whole bunch of trouble for a whole lot of YouTubers. That's acceptable. That's an acceptable problem for them compared to the fine that they were facing, right? So yeah, it's a bit like any business adjusting their quality standards based on finances. So they say, well, if we make 100,000 of this product, it's okay if 1,000 of them fail out of 100,000. That's an acceptable range for us. But for every single person who bought that product and it failed, it's not acceptable to them, right? So you've got all these YouTubers, big YouTubers too, like who used AI to make their videos, but in a good way, where their videos were clearly deeply personal projects that they worked on for months, put in a massive amount of time. They used a little bit of AI to do it, but somehow the YouTuber AI identified it as AI slop and demonetized them. So I guess this has been going on for over a year. I wasn't aware of it, and it was only in the last couple of days a couple of these videos popped up on my YouTube feed, where a YouTuber would say, I've been demonetized, and they tell the whole story, blow by blow by blow, what the email they got. They show copies of the email, and they talk about the appeal process and on. And they're really fascinating stories, kind of terrifying stories at the same time, because it is so automated. So you've got a guy who has a regular YouTube channel. With the very first video that I watched, this guy was amazing. Like, he was making AI animation, but he wrote the whole script, and according to him, he invested $200,000 of his own money into producing these videos with the expensive AI tools and things like that. He showed his editing program, like the actual timeline, and they are incredibly complex videos that he has obviously invested hundreds of hours into the editing, and is a huge project. And then he gets an email from YouTube, from a computer, from an AI, that says, oh, your channel is in violation of our policies. You have been demonetized. Your whole channel, done. You can no longer monetize. And it has all these rules too, saying that, be very careful. You cannot open a new channel to try and get around this. You cannot, they have all these rules, all these things you can't do. If you do any of those things, we will delete all of your YouTube content and delete all of your channels. So this is like a very serious email, and I can imagine this guy just panicking when he gets it. And then there's something in the email about how, okay, after 90 days, after you've fixed your channel, you can reapply to join the YouTube partner program, whatever they call it, and you can get remonetized. But nowhere do they tell him what's wrong with his videos. Like say, well, if you fix your videos, reapply. And he's like, well, what's wrong with my videos? And this is such a common thing from YouTube. I remember I ran into this myself, just briefly. Like, obviously my videos are all personal, 100%. There's no AI production in my videos. So I'm not at risk of being demonetized, at least for that reason. But I remember I got an email a long time ago from YouTube that just said, oh, this video from 3 years ago violates our policies and we've removed it. Thank you very much. And that's it. Like, it's just like, there's no appeal process. They don't tell me what was wrong in the video. They just said, we didn't like this video, violated our policies. It's gone. I'm like, well, what was wrong with it? At least tell me. It's a bit, I don't like people who overuse Kafka-esque, like saying something weird or bureaucratic is always Kafka-esque, but it's a pretty extreme description. But this is where it's like being arrested for a crime, being put on trial. You're asked to defend yourself, but they won't tell you what the crime was. They won't tell you what you did wrong, what law you break, and yet you've been arrested and now you have to go to court and defend yourself, but they won't tell you what the law, like what it is you did wrong. That's Kafkaesque, and that's YouTube. For whatever reason, they can do this. And then with that video, I had a copy of it, in an archive, and I'm watching the whole video from beginning to end going, what the, what's wrong with this video? And I just don't know. They just do these things. So, this guy gets an email saying, your channel, your videos violate our policies, demonetized, please fix it. And he's like, fix what? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, YouTube doesn't tell you. It's a really fascinating part of the modern world. And again, I don't know a whole lot about this, but it turns out that this new wave of demonetization that swept across YouTube, it's still ongoing now. Apparently, the appeal process, like it says, okay, you can appeal, and then they appeal, and they're supposed to do all these things. They have to prove to the AI that their videos are genuine, that they are not AI slop. And they have to do this in video form. So the YouTuber, to appeal his channel being demonetized, has to make a video of himself showing how he makes his videos and actually demonstrating everything and talking about their process. Okay, this is how I make my videos. This is the camera I used, and this is how I shoot it, and this is how I edit it. And they have to plead their case in a video. And then these people do it. They go to all the trouble of filling out all the forms, writing everything, making a video. They send it all into YouTube. And 20 minutes later, they get an email, denied. You know, we've received your appeal. Your appeal has been denied. And you're like, how in the world could you even have reviewed that material so quickly? And then, of course, they go on and on and on, arguing, sending emails back and forth. And then they start to realize, I'm not even talking to a human being. I'm still talking to the AI. And this video that I'm talking about in particular, the guy figured that out because he was pushing for more and more details, like, what did I do wrong? And in one of the emails from YouTube, it said, well, you have 500 plus videos on your channel that all follow the exact same pattern and do these, you know, it's all 500 AI slop videos. And at the time, the guy says, I had 7 videos on my channel. I only had 7 videos. And yet they're telling me my 500 plus videos were too repetitive. So obviously he was not talking to a human. He was just talking to an AI, and he just got caught up in this big net that the AI threw out and just says, AI slop, AI slop, AI slop, and it just makes mistakes. And apparently YouTube has decided that a certain level of mistakes are acceptable because they're facing such a big fine from Europe. They have to really be rigorous in their control of AI now. So yeah, it's quite a story. But one thing I've noticed too, every time I've gotten sucked into one of these dramas, I've done it in the past too, like before this demonetization sweep, I've seen other channels that got demonetized for other reasons. And then it's a big famous YouTuber, and they'll post a video telling the whole story in detail. And then everybody in the YouTube community is outraged and floods YouTube with complaints. And this guy's video saying, YouTube banned me for no reason. They post that video, and that video will get thousands of comments. And they take their social media campaign to Twitter and to Instagram. And if they create a big enough stink in social media, then YouTube finally assigns a human being to look into it, goes to their channel, looks at it, oh yeah, we made a mistake, okay, you're okay, and turns them on again, remonetizes them or unbans them, whatever it is they do. So it follows this regular pattern where I see a dramatic video, I've been demonetized. And this one video that I saw, that I watched in depth, the guy got to the end and he was so upset, so frustrated, he just turned to the camera and said, you know, I poured my life and soul, all my money into this YouTube channel. It's obsessed me for the last 8 years. I'm done. I'm finished with YouTube. I am done. Goodbye. You know, and the video ends. And I'm like, whoa, wow, that is dramatic. And then the very next video, he's back on and he says, oh, I've been remonetized. You know, so that huge drama, I'm done forever. He created such a social media uproar that YouTube actually looked at his channel and went, oh yeah, okay, I see what you mean. You are a real YouTuber. These are personal videos that you made. This is not AI slop. Okay, you're monetized again. So all of that drama. So it's like, if you get demonetized by YouTube, the only way to appeal is not through the normal appeal process, because the AI will just deny, deny, deny. You have to go to the platform, appeal to other YouTubers, create a big uproar, and then finally YouTube will pay attention to you. That's just the way it is. And if you're a small YouTuber, of course, you're basically done. You're not capable of creating so much drama that YouTube is going to pay any attention to you. So, and then the final part of this AI story going around in my head is that here we've got YouTube creating a massive campaign against AI-generated slop. It's a huge thing. Big, big project from YouTube. But when I go to YouTube Shorts on YouTube, I'm on YouTube, I'm just browsing, watching videos. All of the shorts that I watch have a little button at the bottom, an AI button that says, click on this button to reimagine this scene. So I was looking at it, I don't even know what the heck that is. Turns out if you click on that button, it opens up, I guess, well, an AI. I'm not even sure which AI it is. I guess it's Google's AI, YouTube's AI, whatever it is they're using. And it uses their in-house AI to take that video short and then recreate it based on your prompt. So you just watched a YouTube short about some guy doing a skateboard backflip over a tractor or something, whatever the YouTube short is. And then you can click on that button and say, hey, AI, please reimagine this, but turn the skateboarder into a gorilla who's jumping over a banana tree. And then the AI will recreate that video, but as a gorilla jumping over a banana tree. So they're banning AI slop, but built into YouTube is an AI button that allows you to take an existing real video and turn it into AI slop. What is going on there? That just kind of blew my mind. And I mean, I guess the obvious answer would be the cynical one that, well, that's their AI and they have control over it. So if you make AI slop using their AI within YouTube, that's okay. But if you're doing it outside of YouTube using a different AI, making AI slop, well, that's bad. And then we have to demonetize your channel. So yeah, I mean, the world of AI is just going on and on and on, and I guess there's no end in sight. Yeah, major change in life, in human society. Yeah, AI, fascinating topic, and I think we're nowhere near the end of it, nowhere near. So anyway, those are my recent thoughts about AI and YouTube. YouTube stories. I'd like to talk about other YouTubers, particular YouTube travel vloggers. First one I wanted to talk about a little bit is the obvious one, Tread the Globe. If you're from Malaysia, you might be aware of Tread the Globe. It's a couple from the UK, Chris and Marianne, a retired couple in their 50s from the UK. And they traveled around the world in a camper van that they called Trudy. And that journey ended, and they traveled all around Malaysia in Trudy, and they're just now beginning a new around the world journey, but they built a new vehicle. So what they did was they bought a Toyota Hilux truck, a used pickup truck here in Malaysia. They bought it secondhand, and then they brought it to a camper conversion company in Malaysia and asked them, like, can you take this pickup truck, cut off the bed, like remove the bed, and then build a camper shell onto this four-wheel drive Toyota Hilux. And then Chris and Marianne, Tread the Globe, they went back to the UK for a long time. I don't know, maybe 6 months, a year. I'm not sure exactly how long. And then all of that time, the company in Malaysia was doing the truck to camper conversion according to their instructions, their guidelines. And Chris and Marianne were doing this long distance. So they hired the company in Malaysia to do the work, and then they were communicating with them online. Emails, Zoom calls, you know, because they had to discuss, okay, how would you like this? And oh, we're putting in the the bathroom, but this has to go here or here. Would you prefer this kind of, all the hundreds of details that go into a modern, sophisticated camper that has a bathroom and running water and a kitchen and a pop down, a folding roof, and on and on and on. It's a very complex piece of gear. So over months and months and months, up to half a year or even 1 year, they were communicating long distance with this company. And then they finally were getting close to the end of the conversion. The truck camper was almost done. So they flew back to Malaysia. This was a couple months ago or 3 months ago. They flew back to Malaysia, went to this company to look at their camper for the first time. They'd never seen it themselves with their own eyes. And then they just kind of went over the camper with the company, with their staff, and talked about, okay, this is what we're doing here. And they're like, oh, yeah, we kind of like that, but do you think you can adjust it a little bit? Can you change this? And, the truck was still being worked on. And then they were working with the company to make some changes, improve this, change that, and things like that. And then in their videos, they also went to some other companies. They took possession of the truck camper, and there were still some things they needed to do: beef up the suspension, get new tires, beef up the brakes, and then they wanted to get the electronics. I guess the original idea, for example, was to have 2 batteries inside the camper van, but due to shipment issues and timing, by the time they showed up and took possession, the camper only had a 1 battery system. And then they took it to another company that had more, I guess, electrical experience or whatever. And they asked the guy, like, can you put in a second battery? And this other company, oh yeah, we can, move this and move that battery over, rewire it. And so they added a second battery, and they're doing all these modifications and changes and things like that. And then they were hit with a legal letter from the Malaysian camper conversion company, what they call in Malaysia, maybe it's as other countries too, but in Malaysia they call it a letter of demand, basically telling Tread the Globe to stop making videos about the camper, don't mention our name, don't put us in any more videos, delete the video that you already posted. And in the letter of demand, they said also, we need you to write an apology to us because you're damaging our company by these videos. Like, your videos all about your problems with this camper that we made for you, you're damaging the reputation of our company. Stop doing that. So don't post any videos, delete the video that you already posted, and then make a video apology, make it public on your YouTube channel, and write an apology to us. And if you don't do this within 24 hours, we are going to take you to court and we are going to sue you. I mean, they were threatening legal action. So this whole drama has been going on for months now. So I've been following the story pretty carefully. And then from Tread the Globe's perspective, all they did publicly, they continued to make videos as normal. They did not delete their video. They just kept making videos as normal, because that's what their whole YouTube channel is about, right? The whole thing is about traveling around the world in this camper truck. We can't stop making videos about that, because that's what our entire YouTube channel is about. They got sponsors. Surfshark is paying them probably a lot of money based on this idea that they're going to be going around the world in this camper truck, I guess. So they're like, well, we can't stop making videos. So they just kept doing what they were doing. They didn't make a video apology. They didn't write an apology. But they did post on their YouTube channel quite a long explanation explaining to their viewers, well, they issued this letter of demand against us, therefore we can't go back to that company anymore. Like, we're done with them. We're cut off from them. So even all these modifications we're making to our truck camper, a lot of their viewers were telling them, why don't you go back to the company that built it? How come you're doing the work yourself? How come you're paying other companies? Go back, demand your money back, get a guarantee, warranty, do this, do this. And they had to explain finally, well, they're threatening us with legal action. And because of that, we can't go back there. And we don't want to go back there. So the relationship between Tread the Globe and the camper van company soured. The relationship had gone bad to the point of legal action. So they're like, has nothing, we can't go back there anyway. So that's where the story was. And then I wrote about this in a post on Patreon. They started a trip around Malaysia because what they're going to do in the end is put this truck in a shipping container and ship it to New Zealand. And in New Zealand, that's where their new around the world adventure is going to start. Here in Malaysia, this is just kind of the build-up. This is the preparation, getting their truck ready. And then the real journey is going to begin in New Zealand. But they wanted to drive around Malaysia, make videos of Malaysia, exploring the country, and then working out all the final kinks about the truck camper. And they took it out on the road, and the very first night there was a rainstorm, and the water just poured inside the camper. So even after all the other issues they've already had with it, fixing all the things that they wanted to fix, making all the changes that they were making, and spending a lot of money on it, now the very first night they're like, oh, it's not even waterproof. And the water was pouring in so many different places, getting into their cupboards, soaking their clothing, threatening to soak all of their laptops and camera gear. I mean, it was just a disaster. So they basically had to cancel their Malaysia journey. It's like, well, we can't keep going around Malaysia because every night, if it rains, it's going to be another disaster. So anyway, they canceled their Malaysia tour, and then they took their camper truck to a company in Penang called Land Yacht, and then now they were working with Land Yacht to try and fix the waterproofing problem. And that's where their last video stops. So their latest video is called Paying the Price for Building Our Dream Camper Overseas. And it was all about waterproofing it and then doing the final adjustments to get it ready to ship to New Zealand. But as I wrote about on Patreon and on YouTube, watching that video for me was like anxiety inducing because I could relate to the waterproofing problems. It's like, I just couldn't even imagine spending all that money on this expensive rig, like $100,000 plus the final bill for putting all this together. And then the very first night starts raining and the water just pours in. It's just like, that would just be brutal. And then now, because I've done this in the past where you have a tent, because I've never had a camper van, obviously, but I've had tents that leaked, and you're there at the end of a day of cycling and you climb into your tent and all you want to do is go to sleep, and then it starts to rain and it turns out your tent is not waterproof and the water pours in. It's a nightmare. It's just awful, and you're up the entire night fighting the flood of incoming water because all of your gear is being soaked and destroyed. And you spend the whole night just mopping up the floor and then unzipping the tent and wringing your towels out outside, mopping up more water and wringing out the towel. And you go outside and try to, rig up a tarp or something, and then it's just horrible. And now they're trying to, and I've also learned that once your tent is not waterproof, give up on it. I mean, people talk about, just buy this tent sealer, big bottle of this and brush it on or spray it on and reapply the waterproofing. It never works. It just does not work. Once your tent, your canvas, your material loses its waterproofing, or it never had it to begin with, you might as well just stop fighting it. New tent. It's a new tent time. Or just buy a big plastic tarp that is 100% waterproof and just drape the whole thing over your tent. Those are your only options. But anyway, they were trying to add waterproofing to the canvas. And then they went to another company where they hired this company to make custom designed clear plastic sheets that were going to wrap around the edges of the roof, and they're going to hold it all in place with bungee cords. And I was watching that and I was just like, oh, I can't take this. I can't take it. Because I could relate to everything they were doing. And stuff like that is just, it's not going to work. And I couldn't even imagine night after night, every time they park the camper and they're going to sleep in it overnight, and they're going to raise the roof in order to create their sleeping area, and they've got the canvas, and now in the middle of all that they're wrapping plastic sheets on the outside and using bungee cords to hold them in place, and then a wind is going to come and rip it all off. And it's like, just watching them just testing it and figuring out, okay, we came up with this design, but now how do we put it on? And can we put a rope from here to here and a bungee cord from... Once you're putting 10 bungee cords on your camper to hold a plastic sheet in place, you've been defeated. You're done. It's just, I couldn't believe it when I saw them working on that. I mean, it seems like a good idea. Give it a try, but it would just be difficult to do that, night after night, and it would not be satisfactory. So anyway, that's where the video ended, basically. And they do have like very, very strict rules in New Zealand and Australia for bringing anything into the country. So if you're bringing a vehicle in, you have to be very, very clear about its condition. You have to go over it with a fine-toothed system to make sure it's just spotless. Clean it. Like, they don't want you bringing in dirt, plants, insects, anything like that. It's going to cause trouble at the border. So they have to get in there and just clean everything from top to bottom, vacuum everything, make a detailed inventory of everything that's inside the truck camper, fill out all the forms, before they put it into the container ship to send it to New Zealand. And yeah, the worst thing, I forgot about this. I talked about the plastic sheeting and the waterproofing, how problematic that is. While they were doing this, Chris was up on a ladder quite high, looking down, and he looked down into the runners because the roof goes up and down on motors, and it has these big hinges that fold, has wheels on the bottom. So as the roof goes up, these hinges go up, and then these wheels zoom back and forth in these runners. And he looked into the runners at the wheels, covered in rust. Brand new camper. The custom build had just been completed. They took it out one night where it rained, and the inside of the runners were just completely covered in rust. So none of that was stainless steel. None of it had rust proofing applied. So now, yeah, of course they had to deal with all of that just as they were really rushing to try and get the camper truck ready for shipping to go to New Zealand. So yeah, it's a pretty wild story. But in terms of the legal stuff going on in the background, I don't know. Like, they didn't say anything else. Chris and Marianne, they posted their explanation about why they can't go back to the company, because they issued this letter of demand. So it's like, yeah, we can't go back there anymore. But beyond that, I have no idea. They haven't said anything publicly after that. And the camper van company, interestingly enough, has a Facebook page that's public, and you can go to their Facebook page and look at all their posts. And as you can imagine, there's been a spillover from YouTube where people who are following Chris and Marianne on their YouTube channel, they track down the Facebook page of the camper company, and then they're leaving fairly negative comments there saying, hey, well, you guys, why don't you fix your You know, the camper van that you made isn't really working, and you got to fix this and fix that. So they're coming under some pressure, social media pressure, even on their Facebook page. But yeah, it's a very unusual story, because the camper van company, they even posted complete copies of the legal letter that they issued, like the letter of demand. They actually put copies of it on their Facebook page. So I could actually go there and read the whole letter and everything that the letter said. It just seemed like an odd thing to do on a business Facebook page. So yeah, it's a lot of drama there, but there's been nothing new on the Facebook page either from the camper van company. So I don't know what happened. Have they withdrawn their letter of demand? Have they been talking to Chris and Marianne in the background, and they basically shook hands and said, all right, we won't follow up on any of this. Let's just go our separate ways, and we're done with this. Like, maybe, who knows? I don't know if they came to an agreement behind the scenes. I don't know. Maybe the legal action is still pending, and Chris and Marianne are dealing with it on a legal basis, or just ignoring it. Like, I don't know. We're on our way to New Zealand. Nothing we can do about this. I have no idea. So I don't know anything behind the scenes about what's really going on. All I know is what I see in the videos and on the Facebook page, which is the same amount of information that everybody else has access to. But so they post one video a week, which is interesting. They have a lot going on. It seems hard to compress all of that into one video per week, but yeah, they're capable of doing that. And their next video, I assume, will be about putting the truck camper onto the ship, the container ship, to go to New Zealand, and then probably about them flying to New Zealand to be reunited with the truck when it gets there. And then in New Zealand, I think the first thing they're going to do is bring the truck to a local company in New Zealand to rebuild the whole thing. I think the pop-up roof in particular is going to be a problem for them. And for all I know, they might just take it to a company in New Zealand that specializes in camper vans and just say, you know, what do you suggest? And I think that company is going to suggest, well, let's just remove that entire thing and let's put a new roof on top, maybe. But that could cost a lot of money. Based on the build, I don't even know if it's possible. Or Chris and Marianne might just go with what they have, you know, fix the waterproofing, and then start their journey around the world. But one fascinating thing, and again, I posted about this on Patreon and on YouTube, they're very well organized as YouTubers, of course. They have sponsors and, you know, affiliate links, and they have a merch store. So they have Tread the Globe merchandise that they sell to their fans, you know, coffee mugs and t-shirts and sweatshirts, things like that. And they created a brand new design leaning into all these problems, particularly the leaking, which I thought was quite amusing. So I saw at the bottom of the video all this stuff, and it's like, oh, that looks a little bit different. I don't normally pay attention to merch because I'm not out there buying merch, but it looked different. So I clicked on one of them to see what it is they're selling. It takes you to their website, and it turns out they had made a new design calling the van Aqua Van. Aqua Van, the leaky legend. And I guess they'd used an AI graphics generator to create a cartoon of their van with water pouring onto it, and then they gave their van a snorkel and like a scuba mask. So the idea is, well, every time it rains, you know, this truck is like a leaky legend, and we have to put on a snorkel and a snorkeling mask because it's just not waterproof. So now they call it the Aqua Van, the leaky legend. And I kind of like that. I've talked before that I'm not a fan of giving names to vehicles and then talking to your vehicle like it's a pet or your child or something. It's just not my style. So I don't like it when they talk about Trevor, because the name of this truck camper is Trevor, and then they'll go up to it. Oh, how are you, Trevor? Oh, Trevor. You know, it just feels weird to me. But calling it the Aqua Van, like the something, that I can get behind. So I think it's quite amusing that instead of fighting with this van that's leaking so much, they're leaning into it and making it part of their journey. The identity of their around the world trip is now going around the world in the Aqua Van, the leaky legend. So you can now buy a coffee mug or a sweatshirt that has that logo on it, all about the Aqua Van. I think that's kind of funny. So I've talked about Itchy Boots at the beginning already, and I talked about Tread the Globe. And there's a Canadian YouTuber that I don't follow steadily and constantly, but I'm always checking in on his journey, and that is a channel called Moto. The guy's name is Eric, probably in his early 30s, I'm thinking, a Canadian guy, and he is traveling around the world on a motorcycle. And when he started his journey, he talked about how much he admired Nora Lee and the Itchy Boots YouTube channel. And he didn't have a motorcycle, he didn't drive motorcycles, but he decided to create his own YouTube channel, buy a motorcycle, outfit it as an expedition bike, begin a journey around the world, and document it all on YouTube. And yeah, he's done really well. Admirable what he's done. His original videos from Alaska and Canada and the United States, he leaned heavily on drone cinematography, and it was really spectacular stuff. Beautiful drone footage and music to go along with it. His videos were really quite good. Interestingly though, I think about these things quite a bit. He gets like a steady 30,000 views per video, which in the modern YouTube era, that's good. That's amazingly good. I can only dream about getting 30,000 views per video. That would be incredible. That's what he gets. But it's interesting that Itchy Boots gets 1 million. Like, that's her baseline. Every video gets a baseline of 1 million views. So, and then Eric, one of his videos, doing the same thing, traveling around the world on a motorcycle, he gets 30,000 views. So you sort of start doing the math. You know, so is Nora Lee's video, 500 times better than Eric's video to justify the jump from 30,000 views to 1.5 million views or something like that? And obviously, no. I watch one of Nora Lee's videos, and my feeling about them is generally, yeah, they're fine. 20 minutes long. The video starts with her on her motorcycle already. The motorcycle is fully packed, ready to go. She's just about to start it up, and it's like, oh, good morning, internet. And then here we go. And she rides for 10 minutes. And then we switch to a drone shot. Beautiful, beautiful area of drone footage. She plays she always plays the same music, this orchestral, grand, sweeping music, like it's a travel show on TV. She stops to get a tank of gas. And then she rides for another 10 minutes. And the video ends when she gets to her hotel. Perfectly fine, perfectly enjoyable. She has an engaging personality. Cinematography from the drone is gorgeous sometimes. But there's nothing that amazing about it. There's nothing like, whoa, no wonder it gets 1 million views. Like, it doesn't strike me as that good, like to justify to be so much better than other videos. To be honest, when I watch one of Eric's videos from Moto, I far prefer his videos. They speak to me more because he's just more open, more personal, a little bit more about the logistics and the technology and the gear. But even Eric's videos, this is actually what I wanted to talk about. I kind of have the same reaction where, okay, he gets 30,000 views per video, so his videos are very entertaining and appealing, and he gets some amazing drone footage. But when I watch one of his videos, I have the same feeling as I get from an Itchy Boots video. It's like, yeah, that was fine. Like, I'm not blown away. He does pretty much the same thing where he films almost entirely from the motorcycle. So the video will start with him starting the day on his motorcycle, and then he rides, and then he goes through these areas, and the perspective is always from the motorcycle. He's got, one GoPro mounted on the chin of his helmet, just like Itchy Boots, and then he has another GoPro mounted on the handlebars. Exact same setup as Nora Lee and Itchy Boots. 2 cameras running at the same time. The same thing I do on my bicycle when I do that. 1 camera filming forward, 1 camera filming backwards, and then in the editing you switch back and forth from those 2 perspectives. Yeah, again, perfectly fine. But I kind of lost interest in Eric's videos when he was in Europe, because I'm not that interested in Europe. That's not my kind of place, I guess. But I knew he was heading towards Africa, and I thought once he crossed over from Spain to Morocco, I would be enthralled. I thought, whoa, I'm going to be really dialed in and be really engaged with all of his videos, and I'm going to follow his journey, very, very closely because I'm interested in Africa. But then I discovered that months have gone by, and I'm like, oh, I haven't watched any of his videos. And I'm like, well, why didn't I? Because I started, and then I just sort of forgot about his channel. And I was asking myself, like, okay, what's going on here? Like, I'm fascinated by Africa and travel through Africa. Why am I not really fully engaged with his videos? And I've been thinking about that a little bit. And I'm still thinking about it because some of the places he's been to, like Senegal, the city of Dakar in Senegal, that should be like catnip to me. If somebody is shooting travel videos in Dakar in Africa, I should find that to be fully engrossing, and yet I'm not. And I'm thinking about that, and I think what's going on is that he starts the day on the motorcycle, and then he continues riding, and all the video is from the perspective of the motorcycle. Like, he never gets off it. And even when he gets off the motorbike, or even when Nora Lee gets off her motorbike, they still keep filming from the helmet cam. So they're walking around wearing the helmet, and then the video is from the helmet view. And he's going through the city of Dakar, and we're looking at it from the point of view of his motorcycle, and then the video ends with him inside his hotel room. He's unpacked, and now he's holding the camera kind of down low a lot, so it's sort of aiming up at him. And then so he rides his motorcycle up to the hotel, there's a cut, and now it's him without the helmet, and he's holding a camera, maybe a smartphone, maybe the GoPro, down low. And he's like, oh, here I am, I'm in my hotel room. And he talks a little bit about the events of the day, and then, oh, that's it for now, and the video ends. And I've noticed that, I've been to Africa twice myself. I haven't traveled a lot in Africa. I only went to 2 countries. I went to Ethiopia and I went to Guinea. But I remember the feeling, especially from Guinea. This was pre-YouTube, pre-digital cameras, pre-all of this kind of stuff. So I was only there with a pen and a notebook. I kept a journal writing by hand. That's how long ago it was. but I remember the romance of Conakry, the capital city of Guinea, just walking around the streets of Conakry, and it just blew my mind. Just going out every day, walking through the markets, walking through the neighborhoods, interacting with the people of Guinea. It was like a mind-blowing experience, like you're in an alien world. It was so intense. The vibrancy of the colors, just the architecture, the markets, the animals, the people, everything going on was like an assault on your senses. It's unlike anywhere else on the planet. And then I'm watching Eric's videos, and he's in Dakar, has the same basic mood of Conakry, and I'm watching the videos. None of that feeling is coming across for me, like none of it. And I'm wondering, why is that? Is it just because I'm now watching a video and I'm not experiencing it myself? But I don't think so. It's just something about his videos haven't engaged with me in the sense of conveying what Africa is like. Like, he went through Mauritania, and Mauritania looked, I mean, I don't know much about Mauritania, other than just casual knowledge. And he's riding his motorcycle through Mauritania, and I'm just looking at the scenery, and I'm doing like a logical calculation about what it should feel like to be watching video from Mauritania. Like, what a wild place. What a crazy place. So empty, so vast, the desert. And somehow, again, maybe it's just me. It's a fault in me, maybe. But I'm watching his videos from Mauritania, and I'm doing like a logical calculation about how it looks and a factual, look at what he's showing. But I'm not feeling it. Somehow the feeling of, man, look at this place, just isn't coming across for me. They're still enjoyable videos, especially if you're into motorcycles and travel, but it does have that Itchy Boots style. And he did in Dakar, I think in Dakar, he did set the motorcycle aside for one day, I think, and he just went out. Well, he did ride the motorcycle, but so he went to like a camel market, and then he went to a fish market, and he went down to the beach. So he was filming street scenes, and yet it still felt like he was shooting video from a motorcycle. Like he wasn't actually there. He was more like an observer and not being fully immersed in the place. And part of it, I think, is that every time he was on foot, it didn't really feel like he was on foot because he wasn't holding the camera out here showing the background. He has the habit of holding the camera down at his waist. So it's always looking up at him, and you don't see anything behind him other than the sky. And then, of course, he does turn the camera around, and he's like, oh, look at all of these camels. But there's something about the way he's filming that hasn't really pulled me into his world and what he's experiencing. And most of the time, like 90% of the time, he's never on foot with a camera. Like that just never happens. He's on the motorcycle filming, and then he's in the hotel room. Then he's back on the motorcycle, and he's in the hotel room. So when he's in that town overnight, he never grabs the camera and walks out into the streets. He's not filming the neighborhood where his hotel is located. So maybe that's why I'm not fully engaged as well. I'm not saying that this makes the videos bad. I mean, they're better than my videos, obviously, because 30,000 views, and he's got a huge following, and the quality of his videos is high above what I do. But at the same time, yeah, I was expecting to really be so excited about his experiences in Africa, relating them to how I felt when I was there in person, but that isn't really coming across for me. And I'm just thinking out loud, trying to figure out why that is. And it could be that he does not do much filming off the motorcycle, or maybe it's how it just feels observational, like the camera is moving through this scene and observing it from a distance, and he's not fully there for some reason, which is kind of interesting. A couple other things that just occurred to me. I noticed when he was I think it was in Dakar, he was talking about malaria, and he was talking about visas. And I found it interesting. I mean, to be honest, that's the video that I enjoyed the most. There was one video where he wasn't traveling at all. He was doing errands, a Planet Doug environment, I guess, because he needed to get visas to go to embassies and get visas, and he wanted to buy a drone. So he was going to camera stores looking to buy a drone there, and he wanted to get malaria medicine for the rest of West Africa. So he was basically just documenting the logistics of his journey. And that video I was fully engaged with. I was hooked, and I found that video really, really interesting. And then as soon as he got back on the motorbike, I just kind of went, oh, okay, it's another day on the motorcycle. Then I kind of lost interest again. So I guess that betrays my personal likes and dislikes. But what I noticed about him, which I hadn't really thought of, is that when he was talking about all of these things, he definitely sounded like someone thinking about these things for the very first time. So for him to be in Africa, I think is like a brand new experience. So I don't think he hasn't really done years of backpacking around South America and Asia and Africa before he became a YouTuber. He's sort of experiencing a lot of these things for the first time. And I say that because he talked about this in the video himself, that he knew malaria was a problem and he should get malaria medicine, but he didn't know what malaria was exactly. So it's like, I kind of cocked my head and went, oh, really? Oh, I was like, oh, okay. And that kind of put him in perspective for me. This is all like a new thing for him. He said that he knew it had something to do with mosquitoes, and he thought mosquitoes would get bacteria from dirty water, and then they bite humans, and because they live in dirty water, they send the bacteria to the humans. And he says he started reading about it and looking into it, and then he learned, oh, it's not because of the dirty water, it's because of a parasite. Like, it's not even a bacteria, it's not a virus. Malaria is a parasite. And then the mosquitoes themselves don't transmit the parasite from the water to people. The water has nothing to do with it other than the fact that that's where they breed. But what he was learning is that the mosquito has to bite a human being, sometimes an animal, but most of the time a human being that is already infected with the malaria parasite, and then they take the blood from that human with the parasite, and then they bite you and they inject you with blood from that other person containing the parasite. And that was all new information to him. He didn't know any of this. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, that might explain this standoffish feeling I have between him and Africa, that he might not be fully immersed. Maybe it's too new a world for him. And then he also talked about visas, and he was telling his viewers, like, what is a visa? Why do I have to get a visa for all these countries? And he broke them down. Oh, I can get an e-visa for this country, but I have to get this visa here. For this country, I don't need a visa. I can get it at the border. But the way he was talking about it was also like he was learning these things for the first time himself. that it's like, oh, visas. Yeah, this is like a part of travel, something new that I have to get all these visas and I have to plan really carefully how every country has a different policy about how you get a visa, how long they're valid for, what information you have to supply, how much they cost, all these things. It all felt like kind of new information to him. And I guess that's kind of why I enjoyed that video so much, because it was so personal and all about the actual logistics of travel, which I'm more interested in than just another cinematic drone shot. Interestingly, he did buy malarial medication. Like when I went to Guinea, I didn't bother with it because malarial medication, the prophylaxis, is pretty hardcore stuff. Like the stuff you could get in the old days anyway. It was really hard on your body and it was hard on your brain. It can really affect your mood and your dreams. People report that a lot when they're taking malarial prophylaxis. Their dreams go nuts. They live in this insane dream world. So it actually has almost like a psychotic effect on you. So, and physically, they're really hard on your body too. And then the new medication that is better, there's a new that came out in the last, whatever, decade or so. It isn't as hard on you, it's better, but it's expensive. So when I went to Guinea, I just made a decision that I would just roll the dice. I'm not going to take prophylaxis at all, no malarial medication. And if I do get malaria, well, then I'll just have it treated. So I will just take a risk because I sleep, at least in Africa, I slept under a mosquito net every single night. That was my way to avoid getting malaria, was to avoid getting bitten. That was my approach. And I decided, like, if I get malaria, then I will spend the money to get the medicine to get treated. But Eric, he decided to buy the medicine in Dakar, and it cost him $700 Canadian for 4 months of these pills. And that's about $500 US. 500 US is, about $700 Canadian, I think. So yeah, I mean, it is a lot of money to spend just to prevent from getting something that you're probably not going to get anyway, as long as you're really careful about mosquito bites and things like that. But anyway, I mean, if you have the money, sure, pick up the medicine and then give it a try, see how hard it is on your system and whether it affects your mood and things like that. Yeah, give it a try and see how it goes. But again, I just found it interesting how a lot of these ideas about visas and malaria, what malaria is and prevention and stuff like that, all seemed a little bit new to Eric. It was like a new world he was discovering. And that excitement and that energy came across in that video, and then I found it a lot more engaging, which is kind of interesting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of his videos. Oh, he did buy another drone. He's had a drone this entire time. I think he has a DJI Mini Pro 3, I think he started with, out of Canada. And he's gotten a lot of amazing use out of that drone. I must say, beautiful, beautiful drone cinematography. And I don't think he ever lost it. He did crash it a couple of times and he had difficulty retrieving it, but I think he's used the same drone for his entire journey so far, I think. Again, don't quote me on that. But he wanted to upgrade. So while he was there, he found a store, but they wanted a lot of money, like double what it would cost back in Canada, I guess. But then he found another store which had a similar price to what it would cost in Canada. So I think he bought a DJI Mini 5 Pro, which is like the latest one. Again, don't quote me on that. I probably have it. I've written down a note, but I won't bother looking it up. Anyway, he bought a brand new DJI drone and the latest model for that price level. So yeah, it was pretty exciting. He's got a lot of courage though, because he just bought it and he just unboxed it and set it up and figuring out how to use it. And the very first thing he did, he wanted, because it has a more professional follow mode, that's the main reason he wanted to upgrade, because the one he has now, he can't just fly it and tell it to track him on his motorcycle, because the tracking doesn't work that well. But with the new DJI drones, they have really good tracking. So he thought that's why he wanted to upgrade. So as soon as his very first test on it was to go to like one of these really busy areas of the street with that full-on Africa atmosphere that I was talking about, with the crowded streets and the markets and the vibrancy. And then he was going to ride his motorcycle through that crowded neighborhood, and he wanted the drone to follow him as he rode through it and get that amazing shot. But of course, as soon as the drone started following him, it ran right into a whole bunch of wires, electrical wires going across the street. And you could see the drone kind of, because it also has avoidance detection. And my heart was in my throat during that part of the video where I could see, it's like, oh my, yeah, he just spent like $1,000 on this brand new drone, and then the drone starts flying, it's heading straight for these electrical wires. It's like, you can see the drone like kind of going up and down and trying to figure out how to get through these wires. And I thought, oh man, this is not going to end well. And it survived, and it did follow him for a little while, but then yeah, Eric couldn't take it anymore either. He's like, no, this is too dangerous. So he stopped early, and then he piloted the drone back. You know, it's like, okay, that's enough for that kind of experiment. Let's fly it in a safer area first, and then learn more about this drone before we try, you know, something like that again. So yeah, I enjoyed that video very, very much. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the rest of his videos in Africa. But again, I do hope, based on my likes and dislikes, I want him to get somewhere and stay there for a little while. But I'm pretty sure he won't. He's going to do the Itchy Boots thing. Like even when Itchy Boots went through Africa, she didn't really stay anywhere. It was just riding, riding, riding. So when she went through Guinea, I was really looking forward to her impressions of Guinea, because I spent 6 months there. And I wanted her to go to the capital. I wanted her to go all the way down to Conakry, and then I could see some of the city and how it matches up with my memory. But she never even tried. She just stayed far north and never went down to the coastal cities at all. So most of the countries she went through in Africa, West Africa, she didn't go down to the coast and stay in those amazing coastal cities. That's what I would have been interested in. And I'm hoping Eric will, to an extent. But he'll probably just drive. Africa is such a huge place, and he wants to get through all of Africa, all the way through north, west, South Africa, the southern block of Africa, then all the way up through East Africa to Egypt. He's doing the whole thing, and that's a lot of countries, a lot of geography, a lot of distance. So he can't spend like 3 months in each country. He'd be there for the rest of his life, sort of thing. So yeah, he's probably going to be moving pretty fast. But I hope he does stop off for a few days here and there. We'll see how that works out. And I think that is it for today's behind the scenes video. To be honest, I wanted to record this video to kind of get myself back in the mood for Malaysia. When I went to Sumatra, like I said, I was really in the mood of cycling and shooting video and editing video and exploring Malaysia. I really had this mood going on that felt really, really great. But then when I hopped over to Sumatra, and then my stay there got extended because I like it there, and because I got sick and I had to stay longer. And then of course my normal videos from my lifestyle in Sumatra, like I wasn't going to big attractions, and I was just recording little snippets here and there about my daily life, more like behind the scenes videos. And then even though you're shooting just a random walking around the city behind the scenes video, it still takes a huge amount of time to do the final edit and export and upload. And I would go through all of that work. And then in the end, of course, nobody really cares about that video. So you start to lose motivation. You know, you might get 1,000 views on one of those videos in the first day, and probably out of those 1,000 clicks, 90% of them watched 30 seconds and then just stopped watching the video. So you do start to lose motivation because you're not getting much engagement or feedback. So, and then when I got sick, my video shooting habits went down and down and down and down. And once you get out of the habit of shooting this kind of travel vlog video, like especially when I'm cycling, it's really hard to get going again because it's so much work and you have to think about it and do it 24 hours a day. Like it has to occupy your every moment, waking and sleeping basically. You just film all the time, edit all the time. And then if you are going to all that effort and there's like 2,000 views on YouTube, and you know out of those 2,000 views, like very few people make it even to the end. My Crunch Club members, they do. You Crunch Club members and the new Crunch Club Elite members, you know who you are. Yeah, that keeps me going. Any kind of positive feedback like that gives me that burst of energy to do the work again. I mean, I enjoy it, but the time commitment for video really is excessive. It takes me by surprise every time. But anyway, by the time my month in Dumai came to an end, I'd lost that habit of shooting video all the time and just sort of throwing myself fully into that lifestyle. So now that I'm back in Melaka, it's been hard to kind of break out of that malaise and get back into the rhythm of being on this journey by bicycle through Malaysia and shooting videos about it. So I'm trying to kickstart that mood starting today, in fact. And I'm starting with this behind the scenes video, and then I'll post this to behind the scenes, and then it's time to wake up, time to fire up the GoPros and just go out exploring in Melaka, and then hopping on the bicycle and beginning the ride up the East Coast. So this is my the firing shot to wake myself up and break out the GoPro life once again. So that's it. Shutting down behind the scenes for today, and I'll see you next time.